Hey everyone, welcome to That Fella Show. Dan here.
Mick here.
Simon here.
Come on!
Yes.
The wonderful Mr. Simon Jarrett joining us today. Mick there twiddling the knobs just while we get...
As usual.
Dan's showing me lots of cool new chords.
Is it time for I just called
to say...
I love you.
Oh man, when I grow up I want to play like you.
I'm trying to play like you.
Oh.
Keep playing stuff, and I'm like,
Oh,
what the
my
heck's he doing? I'm
goodness.
pretending
Oh, my
like I've got an
goodness.
ear for this stuff. And
My
but
goodness.
luckily it's jazz, so it doesn't really, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, Simon's pop dinners in the country, and it's always... we always try and get some hang time when Simon's over. It's always wonderful to see him. Rosie gets very excited when Simon and Chrissy come in to say hello.
Yeah. A bit more attention
Yeah,
in
we're
it,
dog
Rose.
people, definitely like
If
doggies.
you start barking at me, you're out of here. You can come up for a cuddle if you want. You don't want
Cuddle?
To? Do you want to come up here? No,
No.
only not on your lap, only Mummy's lap or Dan's lap. Welcome to VCQ, everyone. For those of you who don't know, Simon is from Kingsley Amplifiers and Kingsley Pedals. There you go. See, look, dog gets on Dan's lap.
Yes.
And welcome, Rosie. Hello, you're on telly, Rosie. You're on telly, and everyone loves you. Yeah, welcome. Simon's making his annual pilgrimage to the UK.
Yeah, my folks live over here, and we're in the sort of Vancouver area of Canada, and we try to get out over here, you know, at least once a year or so, and visit them and have a little bit of a holiday.
How long is
and
that
stuff
flight?
like that.
And welcome, Rosie.
If you go direct, it's about 8 or 9 hours.
Oh, that's okay.
You know, if
that's
you
doable.
if you go direct,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, from like Vancouver to Heathrow or something.
Right.
Yeah, but we went via France, so it wasn't direct. But
Okay.
But that's okay because we got to hang out in France for a bit.
Beautiful.
We say thank you to BV for moderating and being in the chat. Thank you so much, BV.
Yes, buddy.
LC Vol 73 is on. Plexico is on. Duncan, hi.
G'day, mate.
Nice to hear from you. I suspect we have a fair proportion of Simon's customers in the chat, probably as well.
Aren't we all Simon's customers? Really?
Paul Snow is on. Hi, Paul. Joe Halliday is on. Hey,
G'day,
Joe.
mate.
Where are you going with that gun in your hand, etc. Matt McGrath is on. Alan Twilley, Isaac Draper. Hi, Isaac. Michael Giliberto, Stefan Savelda. A great showing. Eagle Ray Rob is on. People from all over the world. We are
All over the world and beyond.
all over the world.
This is kind of cool actually because I get to see how all this works from this angle.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I'm always on the other side, and now I can see what you guys are getting up to.
Basically, two blokes chimping on screens, trying to keep up with what's happening in the world. I think we've got a fair bevy of super chats in, so I'm going to turn them off so that we can fully answer them in due course. So if you have super chatted to now, we will answer. But I'm going to turn them off now so that we can answer them all in full, because I rather hope we've got some questions that Simon can get his teeth into.
No, I'm just here for the hang, and I might make an annoying comment here or two.
Yeah, okay, so super chats are now off. How is everyone?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. How's the cough?
It's getting better. It's getting better. I've actually managed to get a couple of nights' sleep.
Have you had one of those coughs that just lingers and won't go away forever?
It's been with me for 5 weeks now, and it's just.
We literally had. I felt like it was 5 or 6 weeks, and it just finished maybe about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So same kind of deal. Yeah.
100-day cough, they called it here.
Yeah, it wasn't quite 100 days, but it was long enough.
Long enough.
Yeah, no fun.
So boring, because Dan has chest issues anyway, so. Anyway. Anyway. We'll just get the depressing stuff out of the way. I did, not that it's depressing, but watched quite a lot of D-Day stuff this weekend.
Oh,
it
yeah,
was
it's 80th anniversary.
of D-Day.
Man,
And, you know, we have to just count our lucky chickens, or whatever the phrase is, every now and again, moaning about a cough here and there, watching what those people had to put up with 80 years ago, and continuing conflicts around the world. Let's not forget that. But it is the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
So we can go.
I know, and think that it's important.
There you go.
Well, there you go. Okay.
Bloody digital modelers! Oh!
Actually, and one final bit of sad news. Dr. Michael Mosley, who is a BBC presenter and doctor, died this week unexpectedly. And I just wanted to mention him because he singularly had a giant impact on my life.
Wow.
And I rather
How so?
just with his sensible things that he would say, stuff about physical health, stuff about mental health. I think every now and again someone goes who's had a measurably, massively important impact on the world, and he was one. So Michael Mosley, may you rest in peace. Thank you for everything you did. Sorry, that was very depressing start to the show. Now, digital modelling. Plexico, Duncan, is first in on the Super Chats this week and says, howdy all, cheers for the digital episode on Friday. Tubes still rule.
They do. Talking about, I have a theory. I don't think we'll get into it now, but I do have a theory.
In coming months, I have a theory as well.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good.
It would take too long to explain.
All right.
I'm sure you've got a few theories, Simon.
What about digital modelling, or just theories in general?
Yeah, I think it's all good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I mean, tubes. You said tubes rule.
Tubes rule.
Yeah,
I'm kind of biased, but I would have to agree.
perfectly biased.
There you go. There we go.
Yeah, well, I would like to live long enough to see the question change.
Yeah.
That would be a good outcome for me.
Yeah.
I've thought about it a lot. Anyway, we'll get into that another time. Joe Halliday is on from Hello Sailor Effects.
G'day,
Joe,
mate.
always good to hear from you,
Always
buddy.
great to hear from you, buddy. It's amazing.
He says, hello, Legends. Simon, what inspires you to create? Have there been designs that you've shelved due to lack of dynamics and touch sensitivity? Your designs are so well known to have these attributes.
Well, let's see. I mean, what inspires me to design and make pedals? I mean, I'm a guitar player like these guys, and always liked those classic great electric guitar tones that we all grew up listening to, and I just wanted to figure out how that worked, you know. And I was always into electronics and tinkering as a teenager, and I just kind of went down that path and started messing with circuits. I used to buy like electronics magazines back in the day before the internet, you know. And the Craig Anderton book. You know Craig Anderton? This guy had this electronics book for guitar, and he used to publish articles in Guitar Player magazine.
Oh,
You know,
okay,
and he was
yeah.
like fuzz pedals and stuff like that.
Wasn't one of his famous pedals what essentially begat the way huge thing with the long IC?
Ah, the
I don't know.
red llama.
I think so. I think
Right.
the Craig Anderton overdrive pedal was the beginning of that. I think.
Okay.
Forgive me if I'm wrong in that, but I think maybe. Sorry.
Yeah,
to
no,
cut
you
across.
might be right, but I don't know. But back when I was trying to figure this stuff out, there weren't so many resources as there were today. But he had a book, you know, and he had like all these different projects, like how to make a metronome and how to make a something that went like a
Away from
440
generator.
kind of thing, you know,
Yeah.
and how to make a headphone amp and a fuzz pedal and stuff like that. So I made a bunch of those, not really knowing what I was doing, you know, in high school, and that kind of got me hooked, you know. And so then I got into tube amps and all that stuff, and it was just like, once you're in, you know, and then you just go from there. And I was always drawn to those classic cranked up tube amp sounds and things like that. And so when I got into pedals, regarding the question about like, you know, touch sensitivity, and I can't remember exactly what it was, of dynamics and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you if it doesn't have those attributes? Joe's question was, if it doesn't have those attributes, do you kind of stop and try and find them, or give up on it, or?
I mean, in general, of course, you know, I like touch sensitivity and dynamics and good feel under the fingers, like we all do. But, you know, sometimes a product doesn't have to have those things. Maybe it's got something else going on.
Yeah.
You know, it might be something that's more fuzzy and compressed, which is fun too, you know, because I grew up listening to a wide range of guitar players, and I was big time into, like, say, Alan Holdsworth for a while, and his legato style, which was totally different than the sort of like big kind of transient dynamic range kind of sound, right? that legato stuff, and so I was always into those sustaining sounds and the sounds where you can hold a note and let it ring, and then it does something after you're holding it. You know, it's like the sustain portion of it, not just the attack, but the sustain. You know, where you can get some nuances in there. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling on really, but I was always into all of that. You know, the dynamics and the touch sensitivity and the transients, but also very much into the because I got a softer touch. I think like if you're a player with a harder attack, you know, you're up there more.
You're limiting,
and you perhaps have less headroom. You know, and if you have a softer attack, then there's more. You without thinking about it, you concentrate on what comes after the notes plucked. You know.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know.
I have a related observation on that. A lot of A/B comparisons online, and we have been guilty of this as well. I know guilty is not the right word. We've done this as well. The focus is always on the attack, the front, the kind of. So what you'll hear, two sounds compared. You'll hear somebody play something like.
Nick refuses. I love that. Looks at this and goes,
No, I didn't want to take your guitar off you, mate. You'll hear someone play something like. And that's what you'll hear. And then the next thing will play. What you never hear in A/B comparisons is.
Yeah.
Voice of Summer.
Yeah. Or what you get is like a comparison video where it's all like that, and then you're like, you can't wait for the note to stop sustaining. You know?
Yeah.
But then my point is that then you entirely miss a lot of what's chiefly important to players like you, and on good days players like me, is actually all that stuff after.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I have a not a theory, but not an observation. So all of my favourite pedals that I have connected with have been designed by great guitar players, and whenever we always get you on the show whenever you're here because you're such a phenomenal guitar player, and I know
thank you.
I know that people say that about if it's coming on the show, phenomenal guitar player, but I just want to point out, before all of this this YouTube stuff, I bought my very first ever Kingsley pedal, listening to the demo on that, and I reached out to Simon and said, "Dear sir, you are phenomenal. Can I possibly get a guitar lesson with you?" And I don't know how many years ago that was, but and I
was
went
at my brother's house.
at your
You
brother's
came down
house.
to Russ's house in Guildford.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sat for the afternoon and had a guitar lesson with Simon because I've been in awe of your guitar playing.
Yeah.
Ever since I heard you play.
And I discovered you didn't need a lesson, but it was fun jamming with you.
So-
And luckily I got to meet you, and so that was awesome.
But there's something in that. There's something in hearing you play and that touch that you've got. It is so musical, and hearing your pedals and how dynamic they are. When you hear you play, it's like it's because the person that's designed them understands that. And when I hear, it's ended up when I've heard some of my favourite pedals, and I've actually been able to listen to the guy that designed them. It's like, okay, he's a real guitar player.
Well, that's nice of you to say, and perhaps really good observations. But at the same time, I'm always surprised by how different musicians always sound different through the same gear.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll have somebody come over to my place and try a few pedals and plug into a couple of amps, and it might not work for them.
Sure.
And I'll set things in a way that I'm like, what, and then after they start playing and I start to get it, and I see that they've got a way of hearing and doing things that I just don't have.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And maybe they don't like the same kind of music or the same players, or maybe they do, but it's just so vast and so different, right? So I feel like there's a lot of different styles and that I don't really know about, more in the sort of pop rock world, that I'm not. I got lost down sort of jazz alley and fusion and all that kind of stuff for a while, so. I kind of got that a little bit, and there's a lot of other stuff.
Well, we're so glad you got like that a little bit.
As a designer, then, do you feel the challenge of it when you hear a different style or a different type of player? Can you then start to go, I can I can kind of feel what you need or what you might
A
want.
little bit, yeah. I mean, somewhat, but I have to say that the whole thing for me making pedals and amps was really I was just being selfish. I just wanted to make stuff that I like the sound of, and then gradually, some other people happen to like some of the same things, and so it was a happy kind of fortuitous thing that, there's some commonality between a lot of different players and what they're looking for, so. Yeah.
Yeah, I've still got my first original AC version of the Jester, and the juggler, the big box juggler as well, and still phenomenal sounding things. The Harlot is the thing that is constantly with me
right on
now.
Awesome.
Really wonderful sounding thing. And we've just been having a play with a couple of Simon's new things, and
Been having a terrible afternoon.
Really,
really no fun at all.
Yeah,
no fun.
just terrible.
Just take it away.
it's pretty. Yeah, really awesome, man. So awesome.
Thank you so much. Just quickly, sorry. On the Jester front,
Yes.
I think your small box Jester.
Yes.
If you have that around, we keep on talking about
I know,
this, but I
and
was
I've
going to do
been-
something to
You were,
it.
and I've just been looking for it. And
If
it's
you want to
not
give it
here.
to me, I can take it.
Oh,
Oh, it's not here.
It's not here, but
Okay.
I'll get it to you
All
before
right.
you leave.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Uri is on. Hello, Uri. He says, right now I'm noodling through my Maiden V2 while you guys are talking.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful.
There you go. Gordon Rankin is on. Hello, Gordon.
Hey, mate.
Nice to hear from you. And someone else I wanted to say hello to was Matthew Collis Long. Hi, Matt. Great to hear from you, buddy, as well. Right, galloping on with the Super Chai. Matt McGrath. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Matt.
Matt says, Legends, an Empress EQ Mark II magically appeared on my board. I'm playing in C sharp standard, which presumably means open
yeah.
C.
Yes, C
Or
sharp.
does it? Or does standard mean?
Standard intervals starting at C sharp, like
okay.
like I've done for the
Yeah. I was able to tune out all of the mud. Surprised by how much more clear the bass player was. Amazing pedal.
The Empress stuff is so good, and their Mark II compressor is wonderful. The little VU meters and stuff on it, really good.
Yeah, we've got a big thanks to give to Tom Bukovac once again, who's been talking a lot about running a G7 on the end of his board as a kind of final tweaker, depending on the job he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny enough, we were having a bass conversation earlier, because when you're playing on your own, a lot of that huge bottom end and enveloping, you stick the cab in the corner of the room because that's the most bottom end, and it's just a lovely thing. And exactly as you say, the minute you get in the band, depends what kind of band, of course, like a trio, where the guitar player's got a lot of room, and what kind of sound does the bass player actually have? Because I played in a cover band for years where Roger Newell, who is sadly no longer with us, but Rog, World War III he was called, by Rick Wakeman, whose band he was in. And he was called World War III because that's what he sounded like. But by the time we ended up playing in bands together, he had this very overdriving mid-frequency sound
Oh, really?
with a pick.
Oh, okay.
So you could afford
yeah.
to let the bottom end go a bit more.
Yeah.
But then if you've got that lovely P-bass 80 hertz third, the kick drum's above that for those of you who are into this. You EQ the kick drum above the bass, right? That's
Right.
and a lot of people don't think of it like that.
Okay.
And so it goes for guitars. If you fill up all that sonic space down there, there's no room for all that stuff.
I remember doing a gig in Sydney, and the normal band we played with was this funk thing. The bass player couldn't make it, and we got this guy in, and he had, do you know the Aussie Monitor power amps? They're these like massive 1,000-watt things.
Australian crowns, were they?
Yeah, but these old, they're valve and.
Right, okay.
That and a 15-inch speaker, and like plugging straight into the power amp with a Music Man, and it was all sub, and it was absolutely glorious. I just remember at the end of the gig and just holding on to him, just going, "Don't go."
It's just wonderful. Isn't
Really is. But how much frequency range it frees up for everyone else is awesome. You just, really felt free to.
Guile Strat, you've commented this a few times, so we'll mention you. He says, Simon Jarrett, the real Valve encyclopedia in person. Cheers from Peru, says Guile Strat.
Hi. Yeah.
Okay, next question comes from Alan Twilly. Hi, Alan.
Hi, Alan.
And yes, there's a good answer coming here, Alan. He says, hi, I'm looking for a JCM 800 sound. I was curious if Simon had anything I could use. Thanks for everything.
Yeah. I've got this pedal called the Constable, which is the standard Constable is based upon a late 60s super lead. But I make some variations of the Constable. Yes.
Yes.
One of those, I don't know which one.
Check these bad boys out.
So
They're so good.
I make a version which is based upon the 2203/2204 channel switch, not the channel switcher, excuse me.
They're out of phase.
The master volume circuit. And if you're familiar with the JCM 800 master volume, or the 2203 or 2204, those are the circuit numbers. I think the 2203 was the 100 watt and the 2204 was the 50 watt. So you got two inputs. You got the higher gain one, which had a gain in the volume. Then you got the lower gain one, which was just it bypassed a valve stage and gave you a lower output and cleaner tone. The Constable version doesn't have that lower gain one. It just has the higher gain, and it's basically like this. And it's got the same feature sets, but then it's got an extra volume and master that you can switch between. So you've got two levels of gain and volume. It basically is a channel switcher, yeah. But it's based on that circuit, yeah.
Another cool thing about some of Simon's pedals is that they'll run in preamp mode as well. So if you want to run straight into a power amp instead of having to go through your regular amp, or if you want to hit the effects return of your regular amp to bypass its front end, or in a home recording environment, if you wanted to just go direct and add some IRs to it, it can work really well in that environment as well. So.
Yeah, there's a little output switch here, so you can run full output preamp mode, and then you can attenuate it for front of amp applications if you're running into, Twin, Deluxe Revo, what have you.
It was the first thing I noticed about your pedals, is that all the valve pedals I'd tried up to that point were preamps, like dedicated, pretty much. Like I remember getting the matchless hotbox.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
and
that was nice.
Yes, but as soon as the output was on, it was just too loud.
Came on really quick.
It was just so brutally.
Well, actually, my
loud.
first Jester did that too, as well. I don't know if yours did, but the big box Jester came on really quick, but I soon updated that.
Okay.
But maybe you've got one that doesn't do that. But
I don't know. I need to remind myself. But one thing about your stuff, I've always been able to plug it into the front of the amplifier.
Right. Yeah.
Is that just a matter of turning down the output, or is there other stuff going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things going on.
I don't need to give away trade secrets,
No,
but it's really interesting because I've always thought like having valve preamp into a valve preamp
Yeah.
has always sounded a bit squishy, but your stuff, it doesn't do that.
It just depends on, the particular circuit and how you designed it, I guess.
Right.
I mean, if you take, if you run a valve preamp that's designed to replicate what the valve preamp in your amp is already doing, a preamp inside an amp usually has a big EQing effect, right? So it usually typically adds a lot of top and bottom, right?
Okay.
So somewhat scooped, in tone. And so if you cascade those together, it can sound kind of harsh and a lot of bass, not very warm mids,
Right.
So usually what I do is I attenuate the output. And then the simplest thing you can do is just roll off some highs and lows, or just roll off some highs, And so then it's more friendly to the input of effects, so it won't drive them so hard and clip them. And it EQs the output of the preamp to be more friendly to another preamp, which is already bright sounding typically, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And that happens when you're in the instrument level mode, like going to the front, and when you go back to power amp mode, line level mode, it turns all that off and you've got the
It's just
preamp.
wide open, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So clever.
Eagle Ray Rob says he'd love to hear Simon play Robin's Dumble and hear his thoughts.
Wow. I would love to play Robin's Dumble. I was really jealous when I saw that show. But I have to say, those other guitar players you had on, they were bonkers good.
Charlie,
they were amazing.
Jake is amazing.
I loved those players. They were fantastic.
Charlie's
really
proper,
inspiring.
proper scary good.
And I thought, well, if I was in the room at that time, I think I'd be too intimidated. It'd be all weird, you know, because it would probably be really loud, and you know, there'd be all these notes popping out in the wrong places. But I would love to play that amp.
Well, maybe that can
you
happen
guys
one
made
day.
it sound brilliant. I don't know what to say, you know. Yeah, it sounded fantastic.
I-
You did a great job, and I've read a lot about that kind of stuff, but I've never seen an in-depth thing on his amp.
Yeah.
you
With
know?
him.
He was
With him.
I
he
know.
was very gracious to do that.
He was so
Yeah.
lovely.
Funny you should say that, Rob, because I thought the same. I was thinking exactly the same thing the whole day. I was thinking, I wish Simon was here.
Oh, thanks. You're too kind. You're too kind.
Because of anyone on the planet who would get it, you would get it, I think.
I don't know. Lots of people, I'm sure. Well, you found some other ones who definitely got it. You know.
Have you played Dumbles before?
I've never played real Dumbles.
No.
Only various copies and things.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh well, one day maybe. One day maybe.
One day.
Okay, let's move along. Isaac Draper. Hi, Isaac. Good
Hi,
to hear
Isaac.
from you. He says, I have to do the occasional silent gig, but I love my valve amps and need WYSIWYG. Should I go for a UA pedal, a Captor X, or Oxbox to go direct? You're a fan of Oxbox, aren't you? You use
I
that?
mean, I have an Oxbox and I'll use it occasionally. I mean, if I'm honest, if I'm at home and recording, most of the time I stick a couple of mics in front of my cabs.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, you know, if volume's an issue or something and I can't turn up too loud, I'll use it. Or if I have a session, you know, I might use it in a studio. And it's cool, yeah, it's cool. I mean, it was a little bit of a learning curve for me because I'm used to just plugging into amps and hearing the speakers in the room. But the Oxbox is awesome. But was this question in regarding to home and studio or gigs?
Having to do silent gigs, so it needs a silent.
I think maybe the Oxbox is kind of, you know, like that's a lot to kind of, you know, extra stuff to cart around and set up. I mean, not that you couldn't if you're into it, but I would think there's perhaps more streamlined solutions for that.
There's two. I would come at it from two angles. Like if you're, this might be an insight into one's character, but I have all my stuff in certain cases, right? So I know that when I got to go anywhere, I just pick up that case, or I need to amend that case by adding item X and Y.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that all the stuff is where it should be. So therefore, in that instance, I just put all the extra stuff in the car, and if that were me, adding an Oxbox would be the way to go because nothing else has to change.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
But
That's a very good point.
if you're then, Simon is absolutely right that you're taking a whole crap load of stuff that you probably don't need. So maybe there's another option which has got a pedal board with a Lion or a Dream 65 or whatever on the end.
That's a good, I mean, if that's as good an option
Yeah.
as any.
The only difference is if you find the difference in the sort of tone and the response and the feel too great to get over, the Oxbox might be the better option. But to be honest, once you go silent and then you're on, especially if you're not used to using IEMs, if you're already using IEMs, I don't think the difference is going to be that great. If you're used to hearing cabs on stage and you go to IEMs, that's like chalk and day. And it's a completely different experience.
I was talking to David Kilminster. So the last tour he did with Roger Waters was the first time they didn't have cabs on stage. And still using amps and everything, but it was in ISO boxes under the stage.
Yeah.
And they did their first rehearsal. And he looked down, there's blood all over his guitar.
Okay.
And he worked out that he was hitting the guitar so much harder to try and get some response from, you know, because there's nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
The feel of it.
Yep.
Like,
It's
the
a.
air.
I've seen some guys with those like gamer vests and stuff trying to get a bit of response into you know.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's like, just take an amp.
Yeah.
Just
Isaac, I reckon I'd go the UA pedal or similar route. You know, take your modeler of choice, and if it can fit on your pedal board, you've literally only got to take one thing, haven't you? You've only got to take your board and a couple of guitars.
What about if you had an amp, but the baffle didn't have any holes in the speaker, and you put the amp on its back, and you stood on the baffle, right, and you just played it and had the vibrations coming up through your body? Wouldn't that?
Well, we know bands, don't we, that have to have 412s on the stage under where they are facing upwards
Yeah.
in order to get some movement. I've seen other pictures of friends at gigs where their amps face down on the stage and the mic's in the back.
Right.
Things like the Hovye Deflectors. These things are flipping brilliant. You seen these?
They're brilliant. Yeah.
So they're these shaped plexi panels. You know, plexi plastic.
Nice.
Hubert will probably kill me for saying they're plexi plastic. They're probably some highly advanced polymer. And Dan, if you wouldn't mind just standing up for a second so the people can see what's going on back here. You take it, you put it under the front of your amp like this, and it completely removes the beaming effect of the speaker. Now, clearly it's not silent, right?
Yeah.
You can still be loud, but it does largely solve that problem of those people that are sat there getting the beam. And I've used them at gigs nice and loud with the 2 rocks.
Wow.
They sound great.
Cool.
Lovely.
But if it's obviously if it's completely silent stage, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I'd go. See, right now here's what I do. Pedal board,
High watt, 100 watt high watt, 4x12,
pedal board,
cranked.
thing, modelling pedal. Everything so it's one carry.
Okay.
Hitch a lift with someone else. So in order to enjoy the gig, you can do it totally smashed.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't have to drive, right?
Yeah.
That would work. Too
Worth a shot.
facetious.
Worth a shot. Worth a
More
shot.
than one shot, mate.
I think it's a question of whether it's a thing of volume on stage you're just trying to fix, or if it's a convenience thing as well. You know, obviously, right? Convenience, you take, a UA pedal or something. And if it's just volume, take the aux box and run you over amps as you normally do.
Is the drummer sat there hitting an electric kit? So that's the thing, right? I don't understand. Oh, it's going to be a silent stage. Well, but the drummer's still going to bash 10 shades of crap out of the kit behind you.
Yeah.
It's like, what? No.
And the drummer gets like 10 mics. And meanwhile, if you show up with 2 amps, the sound man looks at you. He's like, you said, can I have another mic for the other amp? And he's like,
just to let you know, the ads are running.
Yeah, we can't turn them off.
Okay.
You should get ads. Sorry, right. Lots of people are saying about ads. You should get them at 30 minutes, 1 hour, and 1 hour 30. And that should be it for this. And then as soon as I can physically turn them off mid-roll when you're watching after, I will do that. It takes a minute before you can turn them off. Really sorry, we can't turn them off. Google enforces that we have to have them on. So if anyone knows how to turn them off, please let me know. Thank you, Bebbers. Are you Pilates-ing tonight, by the way?
No, I'm not.
Oh.
Come on, Rosie, let's go for another.
Lots of people saying Captor X works great for silent gigs. Not as expensive and smaller than the aux box. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tone X, Scott Gaylor is saying it's a real unit for a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of guys with our preamps use them into 2 notes. It was the Cab M, but I think they've got an updated device now. And the Cab M seems to be... And the UA have the aux Stomp.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
So,
Aux Stomp.
Aux Stomp is a nice one.
Sadly, Isaac, we are probably among the worst people on the planet to ask that question of.
Yeah.
But so hopefully there's some better information in the chat for you. Michael Giliberto. Hi, Michael.
Hello, Michael.
Always good to hear from you. He says, hello, you 3 legends. I have a juggler on order, waiting for the call from Simon. Not today.
Wow.
No, he says, no question today, so feel free to dip into the chat. We'll do that. Very nice people on our chat, Simon. They'll pay for a super chat and they'll say, please take
That's
it
fantastic. I've noticed that. That's
take
very
it from the
good.
floor.
Yeah.
So we'll
Beautiful.
do that. Come on then, come on. Question. I'm looking for a question mark. I'm looking for a question mark. David Matai.
Hello, David.
And David, I hope we've said your surname correctly. He says, nowadays it's possible to play a Plexi again with the power station or into the aux box, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So I
Because-
don't know if it's just because we have this conversation a lot. I'm still involved in a lot of gigs where people are playing real amps, and I still see them a lot. Yeah, and I still see real amps.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, and that's changed for a lot of people.
Do any of your clients use Silent Stage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Lyle Workman, who's now on tour with Sarah McLachlan, that's a Silent Stage.
Yeah.
Um,
What does he use?
he uses Tonex.
Okay.
Yep, on the pedal board.
There you go.
You know, all of his same pedal board. It's all the actually we did a Dave from LA Sound did his rig, his board, did a beautiful job doing his pedal board, and it's all the same pedals he used with Sting, a couple of other bits and things for this gig. That was a little way of saying Lyle used to play guitar for Sting. Okay, I threw that in there.
Mr. Sting to you.
Mr. Sting. Lyle's the most astonishing guitar player, and he's does soundtracks and stuff. He did the soundtrack to Superbad. Anyway, but he's out now with Sarah McLachlan, totally Silent Stage, straight out of the Tonex into the PA, and works.
Because David's previous question was, why do only very rare bands play Plexis without pedals? So thinking about bands like AC/DC, how come no one's doing that anymore?
Okay, I think
Airborne do it.
yeah, there are a few bands that do it. I'm trying to think. There's an Aussie punk band who are amazing, but it slips my mind.
The
There are
Living End.
No, because they use loads of stuff and they don't use Plexis and they use tape
Wizards.
delays and stuff.
Wizard amps he was using, wasn't he, I think,
Right.
Chris?
Yeah, but he also had some Fenders and stuff. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in his rig. My mate Paul Wheeler, who plays for Icehouse, actually filled in drums for a couple of those gigs. Anyway.
Because they're too loud is the answer. And probably too unreliable, with all due respect to Marshall.
Yeah, and I also, the technology has changed so much from when that was a thing, is now that you can, a handful of pedals and stuff that you can plug into the front of things, to vary the sound. If you're a punk, like if you're the Ramones, and that was the sound, you plug in, turn up, rah, great. But I think a lot more bands now are going for different levels of light and shade.
Yeah, and you invariably end up sounding like AC/DC, presumably, or Deep Purple, or anyone else who used crank Plexis, or Led Zeppelin, or...
Yeah, in a way, it's kind of a... I mean, there's good and bad to those kind of two extremes, isn't there? Plugging into a cranked amp, and then you have to rely more on talent and just yourself and just like dynamics and... I mean, I have a lot of respect for that approach, but sometimes, of course, it can be limiting, and you get, if you're playing a very particular style that has a narrower range of sounds required, then that can work for you, right? But then, of course, the volume constraints of today make it harder and harder, because then what are you going to do? Plug into a 10-watt amp or a 15-watt amp and do the same thing? And then, of course, invariably, you'll end up running out of headroom or something.
Yeah, completely.
Whereas if you've got a 50 or 100-watt amp, you've got you've got some dynamic range and stuff, and you can get some good tones. But I guess AC/DC never, like Angus Young never used any pedals, did he?
No, he used the preamp from his wireless.
His wireless had a very specific sound.
What's it called? The
Solo Dallas.
Dallas.
Yeah.
Except it wasn't called that, was it?
No.
Solo Dallas is the Repro.
But yeah, they found that his wireless had this particular preamp that was a big part of his sound. Yeah, horses for courses. There's an immeasurable amount of different approaches to this stuff. That thing is so cool, plugging in and cranking and just having the best time. If you're Steve Jones, that's all you need, And they played the 100 Club recently, and same rig, same cranked Marshall and
Who?
Steve Jones from
Sex Pistols.
Sex Pistols.
Oh wow!
And and sounds just like Steve Jones, you know, because he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
And if that's what you're doing, awesome.
It's a sound.
It's
It's a sound.
astonishing.
I definitely do not have the balls for that. Not used in that way. Now, behind Simon over there, you may be able to pick out a 1974 Marshall Super Bass 100, which is on loan from the guys at Overdrive Guitars. Thank you, Overdrive Guitars. Please check them out on Instagram. That is, I mean, right, it's not Plexi because it doesn't have a plexiglass front panel, but it is essentially a Marshall Plexi, right? 100-watt version thereof. Insane thing, but I don't use it for that. I use it for its clean headroom and the amount of dynamic it has below that. So there's tons of ways you can use these things.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, sorry, we are getting way off track here. Jefe, thank you, Dan Braukman. That was the name of Angus's wireless.
Right.
Jefe, yeah. Chris Gwynn says it's got no sound. Don't know why that is, Chris. Please tell us if there's no sound. We think there is sound. Unless you're talking about silent gigs. I mean, it's silent. I mean, just the term is crazy, isn't it?
You seen those gigs where they go in and all the audience have got headphones on, and it's like,
I'm going to lay my theory on you then.
All right.
I said I wasn't going to.
Here we go.
There's two acronyms I'm going to give you.
There you go.
RAC,
All right.
real, analog, communal.
Nice.
And I'm going to give you VDI,
Okay.
virtual, digital, individual.
That's very good.
All aspects of humanity are moving from arc to vid. Let's make it vid, from arc to vid.
Okay.
Think about the way you shop.
Yeah.
Think about the way you consume all kinds of things: media, cinema, theatre, music, right? And that's the key one we're talking about. Retail might be the one you can think about. In the old days, you went to a supermarket, so did lots of other people. There was a limited amount of stuff. It was real. It was analog. It was communal.
Yep.
Yeah.
It
You're
involved human interaction.
There you go.
Now you sit on a computer. It's virtual because that lovely piece of ribeye you're looking at isn't the piece of ribeye you're going to buy. It's a picture of it. It's virtual. It's individual because you're doing it on your own without the interaction of other humans, and it's digital because that's the means of communication. I think to bring us full circle, what we're talking about with silent stages and headphones is going from arc to vid.
Right.
And we're basically half computer game at this point.
Okay.
We're half not real.
Okay.
Yeah.
How, even 20 years ago, there's quite a lot of stuff that was on backing track at a gig.
Yep.
We have friends whose job it is to run playback for big gigs. And that might be, whatever it might be, beats, horns, samples, backing singers, additional guitars. There are numerous massive tours where we know that the lead vocal is not always and sometimes very rarely live.
Yeah.
Vid. All right, you're communal because maybe you're at the gig with other people.
Yeah.
But maybe you've got headphones on, much more individual. And I think that's the way humanity is going. And it is turning music from arc to vid.
Okay.
I don't want to imply that that's good or bad. I'm saying that it is an aesthetic change.
Okay.
Aesthetic in the widest sense.
Yeah.
Tooth grimace. Let's talk about tooth grimace.
But a lot of the reason we bang on about this stuff and say, go play music with your friends in front of people is to try and stay arc, because it means something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Riders of the Found Arc.
There you go.
I'm afraid that even though you said you didn't want to, it's neither good or bad or whatever, right? But
It is bad.
the connotation is, I think most people interpret it a certain way.
Yeah. I
think
regard it as not ideal.
Yeah.
It's not an ideal shift.
Yes, I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's not what I got into music for. wasn't the joy of music and being around others and being excited by the sounds on stage.
Yeah, for sure.
But it could be the sprouting compost of something new and different.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
where it
it's
gets interesting.
all,
Okay.
all this new technology
Yeah.
and stuff, you don't know where it's going to lead to, and it's got massive potential in areas we can't even fathom yet, right? So
Yeah,
whether it involves loud rock and roll and amps and
yeah.
smelly
There's-
bars
Yeah.
and stuff, I don't
Probably
know.
some conductor in the 1930s saying, well, music's moved from posh, massive and theatre and orchestra and
Yeah.
to these rubbish touring bands with some electric instruments and
Yeah.
much fewer people playing terrible music. It's
That's
a,
true. Yeah.
it's a structural change, isn't it? But it is a structural change. It's not the same thing.
There's a message here from Andrew Chang.
Hello, Andrew.
He says, "Hi Simon,
Hi,
Andrew Chang here.
I remember you, Andrew.
Been using the
How you doing?
Harlot V3 on a fusion project with Matt Garrison, bassist with Ravi Coltrane, Wayne Krantz, Schofield, Whitney
wow.
Houston, and it sounds
Wow.
fantastic."
Wow. Andrew Cheng, by the way, is a fantastic guitar player. He's a really nice player. He's put some videos out that I've watched, and man, that guy has got, yeah, he's awesome. Check him out, Andrew Cheng. Very nice
Awesome.
player.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Dan, for that move along. G. Barge says, and there's your novel, Mick. Orwell Reborn. Bless you. Thanks, G. Robert Lewis says, even at a communal gig, half the people are watching the show through their phone.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, but I just didn't want to say it.
Moon says, "I went to an Napalm Death concert and the singer broke his leg." That's analog, right? Come on.
I just hope they had some gaffer tape and cable ties, because that's how you would fix a broken leg at a napalm death gig.
It's hard to avoid though, right? Because we were just in France, and there I am taking a million pictures on my phone, you know, because that's what you do. Because now, in the old days, when you used real film, you didn't take a million pictures, right?
Yeah,
But
you
now that
couldn't,
you can, you do. And then you miss some of the actual thing that's going on around you. So you have to be aware of it all the time.
Totally. Having come from a analog photography world, when we used to pick transparencies for the magazine, you get 6 on a contact sheet, because that's how many you could get across the contact sheet. Therefore, the photographer would try not to take any more than 6 frames.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wow, can you imagine just taking 6 frames these days?
Yeah. Yeah, crazy.
6,000.
I know. Yeah.
Anyway. Stefan Savelda. Hi, Stefan. Hey, people. I have my Juggler version 3 for almost a year, and it's great. Thanks, Christine and Simon, for the great product and the outstanding support.
Thanks very much, mate. Appreciate that. Really appreciate that.
As you know, big fan of said pedal.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Frequents the pedal board.
Awesome.
Is there a big version of the Harlot that has the remote switching, or is that a separate thing?
You mean remote for the second function, for the more function?
Yeah.
So the original Harlot, the version 1, didn't have that.
Right.
But the version 2 didn't have it on the pedal, but it had remote capability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, your Harlot doesn't have it because it's... I have to look at when yours is made, because at a certain date I started to add that even on the version 1s, I think.
Okay.
I might, before I go, should have a look, because you might actually just be able to plug a TRS into it and access the remote.
Oh,
the
really?
more function, yeah.
Okay. Well, on the V3.
Oh yeah, on the V3 you can do it, yeah.
And how do you do that?
You have to have a TRS to dual mono breakout thing,
Okay.
right? And then the ring connection carries the switching signal for the more function.
That's so
Yeah, so
clever.
you can hook it up to G3 and you can use it. I just didn't
Thank
have room for
you.
the extra jack, right? So I had to use a TRS output jack, right?
That is awesome.
But yeah, it works, yeah.
Hoorah! It's made my day.
There you go.
Andrew A says, is there a pedal that will silence the endless noodling of guitarists when trying to discuss things with other band members between songs? Yes, it's called sheet music.
Yeah,
called a-
that's right.
Block hammer.
And Patrick Glantz says, check out Rick Beato's interview with Ted Goyer. He talks about reflexive theory and says society always waits until a trend reaches absurd before it begins to change. Seems
that's
we're getting there.
interesting.
Yeah, and I think we could think of examples in history where that is very much the case. That's thank you for the recommendation, Patrick. I love what Rick Beato's doing.
Oh yeah.
I've watched some of his interviews recently. They've been brilliant. I love the George Benson one. Did you see that?
I haven't watched it all yet, but
I loved it. And I can't remember his name.
Daniel-
Keith Jarrett.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Keith Jarrett's piano playing.
I've been liking the producer ones, the Daniel Lanois one. I'm just like glued to, and there's a couple more I haven't quite caught up with yet. But
The thing is with Rick, he's legitimately. I think this is why it works is he's legitimately so into it.
yeah,
When he came over here, he called us.
Yeah.
He says, "Oh guys, I'd love to meet you and you know get you to film something for the show." And we're like, "Oh, have you got the wrong number?"
we literally said, "What the hell are you coming here for?"
And it's like, but
Because
he
it-
was so brilliant, and he was so into it. And he's like, "I never get to talk about gear, and you know, I love this
He's
stuff."
into
And
gear,
he's
Properly interested.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you get the sense of, right?
Yeah.
It's genuine, you know?
Yeah.
yeah, he's really, really
Yeah,
good.
Nice
guy.
one, Rick.
Yeah.
Nice one, Rick. Eagle Ray Rob.
Hello, my friend.
Hey, Rob. He says, I was wondering if Simon could talk a little about the different types of phase inverter. And he says, paraphase, cathodine, and long tail. Something about their different performance characteristics and tonal implication. Big love and hugs all round. Well, this will be education for me.
I mean, I can say some things, but I'm not an expert on these things. But basically, the most common kind of phase splitter is the long-tailed pair, and that's what you have in amps like Marshalls and Fenders and things like. Well, most Fenders, like a Deluxe Reverber Twin, Bassman, Marshall Plexis, Vox AC30, so long-tail pair, and basically that one it doesn't. Well, how can I say? It uses a whole valve, so usually it's either a 12AT or a 12AX7 typically. And its job is simply to output two different phases of signal, which should then drive the output valves, which are then summed back into an in-phase signal through the output transformer, which drives the speakers. So that's the most common type. And that's the type that I think that is generally associated with classic rock and roll tones, because most amps are created on amps that have that type of phase splitter or inverter. So when I made a phase inverter in a pedal, it's called the Hatchet. I think you guys heard one.
Yeah.
That's one of those. It's a long tail pair. And it sounds great. And it actually adds a lot of, when you crank up an old tube amp, if it has that kind of phase splitter in there, that actually adds quite a lot of overdrive and texture to your sound.
Tweed is a good example of that, right? How much work the phase inverter is doing. You're hitting that phase inverter really hard.
It depends which Tweed amp you're talking about, because a Tweed Bassman, yes.
Yeah.
But a Tweed Deluxe is a different one. That's a concertina splitter.
Right.
And that uses only half of a valve, or just one gain stage.
Right.
And it has a lot less gain. So it doesn't add as much gain, or is not as important for the clipping characteristics as the long tail pair.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are some tricky things with a concertina type phase splitter to make. If you drive it really hard into distortion, it can get kind of ugly. So there's, I'm not really an expert on that type of phase splitter, but you'll find those in things like the Princeton,
Okay.
the Deluxe Reverb, you know. But people who know more about it can correct me. But in my experience, maybe it's different on the Deluxe. I'm not sure, or on the Tweed Deluxe, but it's more about the power tubes being pushed than the phase inverter.
Right.
There's a third type of phase inverter. Well, there's various kinds, but the paraphase is the other one I think that was mentioned. So that one is literally like if you go through a gain stage, whether it's a transistor or a tube, the phase is shifted 180 degrees, right? So all the paraphase does is it goes through a tube gain stage which shifts it 180 degrees. Then that goes on to, say, one of the power tubes in a push-pull amp, and then the signal gets split off and attenuated and goes into another gain stage. And the attenuated version then hits another gain stage, which goes and hits the other output tube. And so basically, it's a very simple rudimentary idea, and it's a very old school one. I don't know of any current amps that use it. I don't think it's probably, again, I've never made amps with that type of phase splitter, but potentially it has high gain, but I don't think it's as matched, as easily matched as, say, a long tail pair or a concertina. But honestly, I feel like phase splitters, there's probably amp guys who know more about them than me that could really talk about the tonal differences. You know, in general, probably most people when they design amps, they try to design the phase splitters not to be like, I don't think when the Bassman was invented or the Fender Twin that they thought that, oh well, this tube has to do this tonally.
Yeah.
It's just its job was to drive the power tubes.
But is it
right?
so?
But it does do something. Yeah, for sure.
I have heard it said, and again, you hear these things said, literally no idea if it's true, that in a lot of amps, a lot of the characteristics people will attach to a certain sound of a certain power tube has more to do with the phase splitter stage.
I don't know if that's true about tonally, but the phase splitter stage, especially if it's a long tail pair, which you can drive quite hard and can distort a lot, then that adds a lot to the resultant tone you're hearing because it's adding all this clipping.
So it's a big part of the game.
So it's a big part of the game, right? The power tubes themselves also have individual characteristics and stuff, but they're not really, you can't really think of these things as having a certain sound. Like a 6L6 doesn't really have a sound, an EL34. It's part of a system, right?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to break it down to these individual things. Say, well, this makes your guitar sound like this, and then this tube does this to your guitar sound.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing, right? I'm kind of rambling, but.
No, but we get that. We end up at that place a lot when we're talking about the same relationship of pickup, pedal, front end of amp.
Yeah, it's all gain staging.
They are individual things, but they work together to create a whole. And as we were remarking before we started the broadcast today, none of this stuff was really designed to do that job, right? So in the development of the electric guitar and the electric guitar amplifier, all this stuff we love now happened largely by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we were mentioning. Yeah, that's right. It's kind of fortuitous, accidents, that's how the sound of rock and roll was born, but it wasn't intended that way.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that the Tweed Deluxe rolls off the line, fast forward to Neil Young and his Les Paul and his Whizzer?
Yeah.
And you can imagine what the guys who built this Tweed Deluxe would go, no, it's not for that. It's not for that.
Well, Jesse Hoff from Lazy J is coming on the show. We're doing a Tweed show.
Oh, well, he'll probably
and he is bringing like some early 50s examples of stuff pre-rock and roll.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is before people were playing amps like that, and it's a fascinating story. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
Danilo Medeiros Musica, and Danilo, I really hope we've done some justice to your name there. He says, "Hey Simon, can I get your pedals in England? Is there an online retailer that carry your pedals?"
Yeah, I mean, you can get them in England, but we just have to send them to you. So we do ship all over the world, but we're just a small company and we just deal with the customer directly. So if you're interested to learn more, just shoot us an email. If you go to our website, there's an email link there, simon@kingsleyamplifiers.com, and either myself or Christine will get back to you and tell you about the ordering process, etc.
It's worth it to go to your website just to hear you play. It really is. Just click on the demos and it's amazing.
I have to apologise for the website. I know it's a bit of a mess right now, and there's a lot. If you dare to go to the website and go through all that stuff, but if it's a bit much, just send us an email.
Your website doesn't seem to be holding you back, I must say. It's
good. Sorry, I was just checking that all is okay in the chat. We'll move along. I hope that answered your question, Rob, about phase inverters, or at least touch the edges of it.
Just the edges, just the very edges,
I bet you already do this, Rob, but if a shout out to the Truth About Vintage Amps podcast with Skip Simmons and Jason Valinde from
cool.
Fretboard Journal. The Truth About Vintage Amps podcast. It's hilarious on many levels, not least the cooking tips.
And every now and then they talk about amps as well, which is really good.
It's so funny. It's so
Imagine a show like that.
And I suspect they get into the weeds of that kind of thing on there, Rob. So if you don't already, please do. Scent of a Wheelchair Pillow says, Simon is my favourite guest ever.
Wow.
Love all of his
Thank
gear.
you.
I've just
so
built a
much.
soundproof studio in my condo so I can blast my Deluxe 50 and spare my neighbours.
nice.
Love the show, guys. God bless Simon Kingsley and TPS.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh,
Thank you,
thanks, mate.
buddy.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. Deluxe 50. He's got that's an amp that I used to make. Yeah. Nice. Nice.
So there you go. Buy a digital modelling pedal or build a soundproof booth in your apartment.
Yeah,
That's the one.
right, yeah.
So is that an amp that you don't make anymore? Are you still making amps?
Well,
A lot less of them?
I'm not making amps these days. I mean, I did actually recently make a few, but in general, I barely make any
Right.
because we just ended up concentrating on the pedal business.
Right.
So
Well-
I still have the amps up on the website, and in theory, I'm still making them, and I've got a list of people that I meant to work down. And it's my intention one of these days to start working down that list.
Well,
And if I get to, if you're on that list and you want a Deluxe 50, I'll make you one. If and when I get, the time to attack that.
so Scent of a Wheelchair Pillow also says, putting Simon on the spot, what do we have to do to get you to start making amps again? You know I'm dying for a tone baron out here in Denver. Dan and Mick probably need one too.
Yeah. Well,
They're a big job, aren't they?
invent, a 48-hour day. I don't know. It's my fault. I love making amps, but it turned out that pedals were just, I can send, from a previous question, I said that we send all over the world, but I'm not in retail stores. But pedals work quite well with us because they're small and you can send them around. Amps, if you're just making very few of them, there's a lot of time and money invested, both for the customer and for myself. And then you've got to send it half across the world. It's a bit more like, ooh, I hope it gets there in one piece and stuff like that. So the pedal business is just easier and still fun and still creative. So it's rewarding still.
And there
Awesome.
is, sometimes you will read a comment, and I'm sure you've read these comments, where people get really angry because they can't buy something because you make it and you have a certain, like King of Tone by Analog Man, let's use that example. Or one of Simon's pedals and there's a wait list. And people get very indignant. They're like, why doesn't he just partner with a massive manufacturer and just build this stuff so I can buy it? And it's like, well, it's your company.
You do what you like.
And there are reasons that you work in the way that you do, aren't there?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's for Chrissy and us and our family. It's just kind of honestly, it's just lifestyle, right?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you've got to kind of live your life and be happy, and so we're at a good place.
There's a lot to be
it's
said
not,
for that.
We could definitely expand and do more, and never say never. Maybe that'll happen, but the way it's running right now is kind of nice. I can still do what I'm doing and enjoy what I'm doing and design and
If
create
you're still
things,
enjoying it,
right?
that's
Rather
the
than
best
trying to
thing.
manage what
Yeah.
other people are doing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Then hopefully that answered the question. And good luck with building the booth. Tone Dragon says, my wife ordered a Meris Mercury 7. This is Tone Dragon for my birthday today, and it's showing up this afternoon. Any advice for a newbie with this pedal? Thanks, Leggins.
First of all, buy a bunch of flowers and whatever for your wife. She has knocked it out of the park. It is such a fantastic pedal. When I happened along with some suggestions for his board, and he put that Mercury 7 on his board. He's like, I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I have to have it on there because it just sounds amazing. Think of it as a number of different ways. Yes, amazing plate reverb, and there's a setting on it called Ultra Plate, and will give you beautiful, authentic plate reverb tones. But then you can get into the soundscape stuff, and it always reminds me that particular Meris pedal of 70s sci-fi stroke, early Kate Bush, Peter Gabriel, those sorts of reverbs that are haunting. It does it as good as anything. It's amazing. Meris did the algorithms for the CXM 1978. They know that stuff back to front, the soundscape stuff that you can get into with that pedal also go and have a look at Loki's channel, which is it Pedals and Things? No. Someone remind me. Loki does amazing soundscape demos, and he's done an amazing demo with the Meris.
Do you mean Loki from Polly or a different Loki?
Different Loki. Anyway, it'll come to me. I'll mention it in a bit. But he did a wonderful.
It's Loki music. Loki soundscapes.
No.
Okay, someone will put it in the chat.
Yeah. There's a couple of guys that have done really great in-depth reviews on that, so go and check those out. But it's a really great pedal. You'll love it.
I would say start with the presets. So plug your guitar in, get it into the amp. Choose whatever sound on your amp you want, but as a start point, I would say have a cleanish sound. And listen to what happens in the presets, and listen to, well, just don't listen to anything to start with. Just play, enjoy it, see what happens. And quite often with big reverbs, obviously you don't want to play too much, because if you're playing loads of stuff, you don't get to hear the lovely reverb tail, so try and play sparsely. When you hear something that sort of tweaks your ear and you're like, what's that? Then you can start messing about with the parameters of that preset and change things like the decay length of the reverb. There might be some sort of modulation on it. There might be a pitch shift. There might be a room size. All the things that are adding up to make that sound, you can just change those. And as you change them one by one, process of elimination, you'll kind of work out what the controls do. But the presets are a great place to start for that. And because they'll give you a really great demo, essentially, of what it's capable of. And be inspired. Let it take you. One of the things I think we can all do and be guilty of doing, don't know where you are on your guitar playing journey, but most of us have a set bunch of things that we play all the time.
Yeah.
And if you do that and the pedal kind of seems wrong, it's probably because what you're playing is not really suiting the sound that's coming out. So you can let the reverb pedal just lead you a bit. Just let your fingers go wherever the hell they want to go. Don't even worry if it's musical, and try and play the sound rather than trying to play what you normally play and the sound kind of not really working. So work with it rather than against it. And that can be quite hard to do if you're not used to doing it, but that's what I would do.
Just like something completely random, Scott Gaylor has asked, Dan, I've been told I need to wear a mouthpiece now while lifting weights. Are you using any particular mouthpiece when you roll? I've chosen not to wear a mouthpiece when I roll, just so I can get used to rolling hard without a mouthpiece and put my jaw in the appropriate position. But there's some really great mouthpieces that you get that you put in boiling water and then you bite down on them and they mold perfectly to your teeth.
Is that what we used to call a gum shield, or is it different?
No, exactly that.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But
Is this something that you guys do in the TPS bands?
what, roll on
Right,
stage?
ball
grabbing.
Timmons.
Yeah. Touch hands and go. Yeah. And he's got good ground game. He does.
So, wow, so you need to use a gum shield while lifting weights. Blimey. And is that to protect you from biting your tongue or damaging your teeth or
Yeah, if you're
something
going,
like that? Wow.
you can do damage.
They
Stop
must
you
be
grinding.
They must be serious weights, Scott. Blinkers. When I was at school, you just used to go to the shop that sold the kit, the rugby kit, and they'd give you the gum shield, and you do exactly that.
Yeah.
Put it in the hot water.
Yeah, right.
Shove it in your gob.
There you go.
I guess technology's moved on a bit since then, probably. It's the kind of thing your orthodontist could help you with, probably. Isn't it? Like a custom-made one that costs $5,000.
You can. Oh yeah, they're like, it's the pedal range of mouthpieces. You can go silly. You go down the rabbit hole.
Like everything, boutique. Were we talking about this last week? Boutique tomato ketchup.
Oh yes.
I'm so into boutique tomato ketchup. Right, found this stuff. And it's not that boutique. You can buy it in supermarkets. It tastes so much better than normal tomato ketchup, than like Heinz tomato ketchup. It's fantastic. And because it's boutique, it's 4 times the price of tomato ketchup. So ketchup, mouthpieces, guitar amps, it's all there, isn't it? Boutique everything. There's a t-shirt. Do you mean the Pedal Zone YouTube channel, Dan? Says Peter
Pedal
Jess-
Zone, thank you.
Thank you, Peter Jessup,
Yes,
for
Pedal
that.
Zone. Go and check that out. He does amazing, like his soundscape demos he does are phenomenal. Really
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah. XX Doctor 34 M5XX wants to know what we think about Glenn Fricker from Spectre Sound Studios. His take on pickups, tone woods, etc., not playing a role in the sound. I think we would generally disagree.
Yeah,
We like Glenn. We know Glenn. We've met Glenn a few times.
Yeah.
Hung out and had some fun.
yeah. He's a big Judas Priest fan. Would fundamentally disagree.
I think it's about context, right? So someone else in the comments from Friday's video, and I was really surprised by this because this person who commented, from their previous comments, I'd assumed that they really, really knew a lot of stuff and had great technical knowledge. But this particular comment sort of led me to think different. And it was quoting dear old Jim Lill,
Oh, okay.
who's made some really brilliant videos. But one of his videos was about the cabinet makes no difference to the speaker sound.
Okay.
In what respect? Like, what about the cabinet? The dimensions or the wood or just
Any of it.
opening?
Any of it.
If you put a mic in front of it. Is that what
Oh,
you're
if
saying?
so, you put a mic in front of a speaker without a cabinet, is he saying it sounds the same?
Or if you change the cabinet, different type of cabinet makes no difference.
Right.
And I think that there's some merit in that if you mic it really close in a specific set of circumstances. The second you get that mic more than about 6 or
millimetre?
8 inches away, it makes a colossal difference. Like the cabinet makes a colossal difference for the sound of the room and the projection of different frequencies and the way it presents and all of that.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
100%, yeah.
You were looking at me as if to say, no, it doesn't.
No, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think if I've got anything, any kind of knowledge to add there. But yeah, I mean, as soon as obviously we know the cabinet makes a difference, but for recording, I mean, it's not something I've tried, but I can almost guarantee that, if you try to record a speaker in free air,
Yeah,
even if you mic it up close.
yeah. I don't think his question was no. No, it might have been.
Oh,
It
okay,
might have
okay,
been.
okay.
It might have been. Jim says some pretty.
But that's the extension of that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So
Can you hold that for us?
Yeah, for sure.
to defend Glenn ever so slightly, there may be contexts in which it makes minimal difference, and
Can I just say?
These make no difference.
Right.
that may be true. But in our experience, we would entirely disagree. Dan is going to explain why.
Okay. Les Paul. 335 SG. These have the same electronics in them. The same, when they came out, like fundamentally, same pickup, same electronics. But have you ever heard an SG that sounds like a 335 or a Les Paul that sounds like a, like saying that it's only the pickups that makes the difference?
Well, Glenn's even saying that even pickups don't make any
Right,
difference.
well then,
Okay.
Yeah,
so there you go.
yeah. I'm sure there are cases in which the differences are minimised. Sure, that's the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dan's example of those 3 guitars there, same pot values, same pickups. Jim
Is that all
Lill
mahogany?
would argue that the position of the pickup relative to the bridge is the only thing that makes any difference, and it's just a lie. It's just not true. Yeah. So no, we don't agree. Yeah, there we are. In general.
Gordon Rankin says everything makes a difference.
Yes, it does. We know that. We know it does. It all matters.
I was surprised. I heard, was it on your guys' show? I heard, I know, or maybe it was Rabia's. Rabia did a thing. What was it?
With the
you guys?
pick guard.
With the pick guard. And I definitely heard the difference was like it was amazing.
Yep.
Just
So-
a different pick guard.
but
You went to a
can-
metal one, right?
You can explain that electronically, though, surely.
Well, I was surprised. I mean, I don't know that. I didn't think that any electronic effects from
From plastic.
having, plastic.
But
Yeah,
okay,
but
here's a
because-
question for you. What did they use to do the black colouring of the middle layer of the pickguard?
Plastic.
I don't think it's the plastic that makes a difference. I think it's compared to the metal.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
metal.
it's the metal. Because you were saying it just becomes a big capacitor, weren't you?
Sorry, hang on. Just tell me, shielding or the?
The pickguard material.
If it's metal or if it's plastic.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You mean if it's?
Inner
Oh,
strap,
okay.
Rabea.
Oh, sorry. Of course. If it's metal,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then if and it's around the pickups, then that metal is acting like it becomes like a capacitor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
people are saying
sure it
that's
does.
not
And-
the case because aluminium is not ferrous.
Oh, if it's
but-
aluminum, yeah.
But
Yeah.
eddy currents. Someone was saying about eddy currents. Anyway, there were various electronic explanations. For it.
Okay.
Yeah. But regardless, it surprised me at how much difference it made.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I bought an old Strat, and it came, with what I presume was the wrong pick guard, and it was a metal one.
Yeah.
And I played the guitar when I bought it, and I went, oh, this sounds really great. But when I got the guitar, I took the metal pick guard off and I put on a plastic one, and I've had it on ever since. And when
Right.
I saw your video, I went, I got to put that metal pick guard back on. Because funnily enough, I have a memory of that Strat. I always thought, it never quite lived up to what I thought it was originally, and I wonder if
Okay.
it's that. So I haven't done the experiment yet, but when I get home,
Let us know.
I'm going to
Yeah.
change it.
Let us know.
I know.
So I
mean,
still have the metal pick.
Yeah.
Having heard it and done it many times over the years, I know that it makes a difference.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You know that it does.
I
because-
remember putting copper shielding tape in the cavity of a Strat to try and cut down on the hum.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you've done it. Had it all left up.
Shielding will make a difference.
And it's
Yeah,
like-
it
it's
does.
like-
It does.
What on earth is that? And then when you look at it, and it's like,
It is capacitive,
yeah.
right? But the thing is, though, it's such a small amount of capacitance that it surprises me because compared to the capacitance of your cable,
yep.
it's nothing.
Yeah, so you've got the air becomes the
The dielectric.
dielectric,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah,
right,
okay,
and
okay.
you know what I mean, and it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but it
So it's
just
a different kind of
Yeah.
David Walls
Yeah.
is.
But I was the same. I did the same thing. I couldn't
Yeah,
believe it,
yeah,
and I took it out. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So having done it, it's like absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, David Walls is offering the common alternative argument, which is it's all psychoacoustics, or at least most of it. The difference is like comparing cream paint. You're better off spending your time and money on improving your technique or buying a GE7. There is some merit in that.
Yeah,
There is some merit in that because we are talking about degrees of difference.
that's right. Yeah.
However, mine and Dan's argument for that has always been what removes the barriers to you playing as well as you possibly can.
Yep.
And if you start noticing these small differences and you make a change, if you spend 23 hours a day wondering about the tiny differences and never play the guitar, that's you're out of whack there, I would say. If you notice the difference, make a change and it improves and it removes a barrier and your playing becomes more free and you enjoy the music, then that's where we are. Reducing it all to saying it's all psychoacoustics and an EQ pedal will fix it is too reductive. That is a case of your cognitive stress going, this question is too difficult, I need an easier question and an easier answer. And that is a natural part of what we do as humans.
Yeah.
When the problem becomes too difficult, we substitute an easier question, come up with an easier answer. But there are those of us who do want to go down the rabbit hole and unravel it.
Yeah.
And to your point, and why I said there's merit in it right from the beginning, there is, because we would probably be better
Sure.
spending 10 hours playing the guitar than 10 hours swapping out pick guards.
Yep.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Stefan Huck says volume. Volume removes the barriers.
It does, it does.
Yeah. Incidentally, just going back half a second, the thing with the shielding and the metal pick guard, that capacitance adds to the capacitance of the pickup, right?
Yep.
And when you add to the capacitance to the pickup, that basically shifts your resonant peak of the pickup
Exactly.
downwards in frequency.
There you go.
There you go.
right? So it gets darker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. So
But the amount is what surprised me.
Yeah, sure. But even
Lewin is doing his nut thinking we've all lost our minds. Sorry, Dan, you were saying?
that's what I said.
Okay. And David Walls comes back saying maybe the answer to the problem is too low a value. Well, yeah, and I guess there's no universal unit of value, is there? It matters more to some people and less to others. And often when you offer an opinion on something, the mistake is to go, well, they're saying I'm wrong. And that's, if I say this, I'm not saying you're wrong in your opinion. It's just, that is our opinion.
Sure.
And that's fine.
Fine.
We can
It's
all
all good.
coexist, can't we? Hopefully. But just for a second, right, it's That Pedal Show on YouTube. Like
Yes,
geeks
exactly.
talking about the geekiest thing at the geekiest end of the geekiest spectrum. So we are kind of
We're allowed.
sort of what we're here for, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I agree.
Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Pete Clark says, Clon, just hype. Yeah, totally
Come on.
agree. Totally agree. If anyone wants to give me $6,000 for it, you can have it.
Would you sell it?
Yeah, at this point. I think so.
Okay. All right.
Trouble is, I don't know what I do with the $6,000. That's the problem.
What do they go for these days?
About 5.
Yeah. Wow.
It's collectability, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does a Rolex watch tell the time better than this? No, it tells it much worse. It's
Well, I
nowhere near as accurate.
Yeah.
What was that thing in that film? To there's two surfers out there says, "Yeah, man, I stopped wearing a watch when I moved out to Hawaii." That's amazing. He goes, yeah, I've got a clock on my phone now, so I don't really need it.
It's not about its usable function, is it? It's about its collectability value.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And bragging rights.
Yeah,
We know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
We know that.
But I think I'd prefer to have a guitar with that $6,000
Yeah.
could buy. Much as the Clon's awesome. But,
Yeah.
you know,
No, I almost agree. Especially if that $6,000 guitar is a guitar that's going to be $10,000 in 20 years.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, or 10 years. That makes sense, I think. Anyway, we got off track. Seth Rowe. Seth, you have supercharged, but we have no question from you. Maybe BV has forwarded it to me. No question from Seth Rowe. So we might come back to you, Seth. Sorry if we've missed your question.
Quick question for you. Do you ever just play with your fingers?
Yeah, I'm not so good at it, but I do pick up a guitar and just kind of... And the nice thing about it when you do it is because my technique's not very good, it forces me to slow down, and then you think a bit more, and or perhaps you don't think, but you hear the things you've played, and it affects the next thing you play.
Okay.
You know, whereas if I have a pick in my hand, I'm more likely to fall into the rut of playing things I know in patterns.
Okay.
So it's definitely a good idea to play without your pick, even if your lack of technique frustrates you, as it does for me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I presume you do too.
You've
got a pick in your hand.
Yeah, but I'll do the thing where you just hide it there and.
I
I
can't do that. I don't know. It doesn't feel comfortable for me.
Yeah,
to do that.
it's rare, but
That's
that,
nice. That's
yeah.
I should work on that because that would be a nice solution for me.
Yeah,
Because I
just
use
sort
my
of falls
fingers
there.
all the time, but usually with the pick. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Matt Swanson says tone is all about the amount of libations consumed.
It makes a difference.
It kind of is. In all seriousness, we in the whole digital analog debate, and back to the original assertion earlier about some online demos comparing sort of short sections of stabby playing, what you're doing is you're reducing the experience to two basic senses, sight and hearing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not really how humans work. Humans work on the 5 senses that we know about, that we commonly mention: touch, taste, smell, hearing and sight.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition to that, there's all kinds of other senses that that either haven't been defined yet or we don't understand. I'm not even going to get into it. Kinesthetic sense, the sense of yourself in your own body; environmental sense, the sense of your self in relation to the environment around you, which might not come through any of those other senses.
I can feel a vintage AC30 within 7 miles of anywhere I'm stood.
Okay, what do we call that? What's the word? Telepathic sense.
There you go.
These things, you know,
Telepathetic.
you would be logically out of line to deny any of the existence of any of these things, right? And your experience of sound in a room is a collection of all of those things, and yes, even smell and even taste. I walk into this room in the morning and I can smell that Marshall.
Yeah.
And
for
if I
sure.
can smell it, I can taste it, right? Because those two senses are absolutely linked. And you might laugh your socks off at that. But I'm not saying that it's like 80% of the experience. It might only be 0.3% of the experience. But the physical, back to Arc and Vid again, the physical sensing
Sure.
of sound is not just sight and hearing. It's a combination of all of those things.
Yeah.
Well, why did I start talking about that?
Don't know.
point.
But Jeff McCurlane's in the chat,
Hello, Jeff.
and he says
Jeff.
everything makes a difference, and that makes me happy and insane.
Yeah.
We're right
There
there
you
with
go.
you.
Is that Jeff Mackley?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hi Jeff. How's it going?
Why did I
Jeff's
say
an
that?
awesome player.
We were talking about it.
Super nice guy too.
Yeah, he's coming over. Jeff's coming over.
Is he?
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Hopefully he's going to visit.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know why I was talking about that. There was a reason. Gordon Rankin.
Oh, good day, mate.
Hope everyone is having a great week. We are, Gordon. Thank you. He says it's 70 here in beautiful Cincinnati.
Wow.
Pass
Is that
on-
cold or hot?
Yeah, I
70.
don't-
It's freezing, isn't it?
Is it? You see, I don't do Fahrenheit.
No, I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's about 28. Is it 70? I'm going to guess.
I'm glad you did that because afterwards Chrissy would have said, you guys have got all these computers and phones, you didn't even bother to look it up. It's like my kids when they ask us questions around the dinner table and they've all got phones, but they ask us questions, we say, I don't know. They go, oh. You know, they've got the phones in their hand, right?
21 degrees.
21 degrees.
Magic.
Okay.
It's
21.
21.
That's a
Perfect.
nice place to be.
Pleasant. Yeah.
Yeah. You is it centigrade in Canada then?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. And centimeters?
Yes, it is. But if you go to the hardware store or something, if you buy like a piece of wood, they call it a 2x4. You know, it's still like
In inches?
feet and inches for
Oh,
like
okay.
construction materials and stuff like that. Although it's not really a 2x4, it's actually measured metrically, but they still call it
Still cool.
But is it in kilometres an hour or miles an hour?
kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
Kilometers an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jay Nudson, I'm visualising Mick sniffing and licking the Marshall when he comes in the room. No, don't do that. Don't do
No, it
that.
does that to the high watt.
No,
It doesn't want to cross-contaminate.
it's not food.
PV's just mentioned Jeff will be in the UK at the end of November.
Yes, we're in email contact. So anyway, so Gordon very, very kindly offered his question to the chat, and there was one I just saw earlier. I'm trying to pick one that's interesting. Not another one about analog versus digital. So YMESYDT, it probably says something, doesn't it? I'm probably saying a rude word. Says, Simon, have you considered building a 112 with a crucible power amp so we could swap your preamps with a flexible cranked power amp?
I mean, I've considered making like powered speakers, you know, like a tube power amp in a little 112 cab or something. The Crucible is a 1 watt valve power amp, right? You know, 1 watt's not very loud. It's great for playing around at home or studio where you want to keep a lid on the volume. But I think, you know, if that was... The funny thing about low wattage amps is that everybody presumes because it's low watt that it's kind of like a little practice amp or something, you know? And I used to make an amp called the Deluxe 1, and it had one out, it was a single-ended, and it was like 3 watts, you know? But it wasn't any particularly easier to make than the bigger amps.
Yeah,
and so it wasn't that
okay.
much cheaper, because I wasn't trying to make a cheaper sort of portable amp. I was just trying to make a really nice amp that's not too loud.
Yeah, we did talk
Yeah.
about that, didn't we? The only time I've been in the least bit excited about lower volume sounds is when you started talking about it.
Yeah.
It was like that could work. That could be the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, yeah. I'll have to get you guys a Crucible to check out. But yeah, no, I don't have anything like that coming out soon. But it's definitely an idea. In the meantime, the Crucible's nice and small, and you can just stick it on your amp or your cabinet.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, you could just get a Crucible and a cabinet.
Yes, of course, yes. But no, yeah, that's a nice idea. But if I did it, I think I'd probably do it with something with a little bit more power, maybe like 5 to 10 watts or something. But
Yeah.
maybe with a 1 watt option. Yeah.
Imagine that, something like that, barefaced cab.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah,
pretty
but
killer.
there are what powered cabinets are. What's the Line 6 product that's like a powered cab?
But
Didn't
they're
It's
the
all-
full range stuff.
It's,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
they're
okay,
usually
yeah.
FR. We've got the Fender one here, the 12-inch Fender one here, and it's okay, but it's
We used the Mesa Boogie, the 5050 power amp with a couple of EVs.
Yes.
For the last show that we did, and that there's definitely a thing with having that stuff going to real guitar power amps and real guitar
For
speakers.
sure, yeah. Well, that's a huge part of the equation, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Mesa Boogie years ago used to make something, I think it was called the Satellite series. Mesa
Yeah,
Boogie
yeah.
Satellite. And that was basically like a power amp
yeah.
in a cab.
That was kind of
I was looking for one of those, thinking, I wonder if those are out there, but I can't seem to find any.
precursor of wet dry, wasn't it? So it was basically designed the way Andy runs his Lone Stars.
Yeah.
It was just the power section of the amp, so
Okay,
it didn't have
yeah.
the front end of it.
Yeah.
Simul Satellite, it was called.
That's
Simon
it.
Satellite.
That's
yeah.
it.
Well, that's the one I remember
Yes.
anyway. I remember it being in Guitarist,
Yeah.
so it looked like a Mark Series combo.
Yeah, that's right.
And you just run it alongside and
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
yeah. Oh wow.
Iodine 74 says, smell the glove, lick the Marshall. Well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah. Loon is just literally doing his nut. Good. Right. Moving along. Thomas Eichinger. Hi, Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
He says, what to do if front of house doesn't get my wet-dry mix right? Any tips for a box to mix the signal myself and give front of house just one cable? Thanks.
So the interesting thing about doing a wet-dry thing is what you need on stage can often be different than what the sound guy needs out the front, depending on how many people are in the room, what sort of room it is. What I love about the wet-dry thing is you can get your perfect sound on stage. The amount of clarity from the dry and the amount of wet to give you the space. Once you're happy, soundman gets 2 mics and then he can mix that for whatever he wants. Now, it's obviously it's different to stereo because the wet dry thing can be straight down the middle. You're not looking for left and right separation. It should be a simple matter of putting it up and some riding the wet signal or whatever. Yeah.
But is the question like in terms of like perhaps if the wet sound, he doesn't have the option of giving this. This is like he's talking about a single output, no?
Well, he's saying that if the 2 amps are mic'd and front of house either doesn't understand or
Yeah,
too much wet, not enough wet,
yeah.
it's really their
To
decision, I
mix
think,
it.
is what Dan's
Yes,
saying.
that's
but
true, yeah.
other than that, you could just buy a small mixer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's plenty of compact mixers these days that maybe not even much bigger than that, like quite
Yeah.
a nice mixer that'll take 2 mic signals, just output 1.
I-
But if you have sorry, Simon.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
If you have a conversation with the engineer and just say, look, one of these sounds has got effects on it and one hasn't, so if you think about it like a parallel bus, just bring the wet amp up like you would a parallel bus. And it might be language that they're more attuned to
Yeah.
hearing.
yeah.
Sorry, you were going to
Yeah,
say.
no, I mean, the only thing is, of course, it's up to the soundman then to get the blend to where you hope it is, right? I've done before. I've gone with 2 amps and done wet dry, and I've just had 2 mics and with a Y cable,
Right.
and given the soundman just 1 cable, and that way at least I know I've got what I want on stage. I know it's coming out of a mono signal at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds great on stage and comes off the stage somewhat in the days where you could actually turn up a bit. And
Are
and
you
then,
finding that now as well, that it's harder to turn up?
honestly, I don't gig enough these days to really experience it, but I did when I was gigging more. Yeah, no, that definitely it was. Maybe it was just the places I was playing, like sort of casinos and certain bars and stuff
Oh,
where they're
okay.
kind of on you,
Yep.
But recently, no. But I don't get out and play enough to notice. I did have one house gig. I remember we played for years and stopped playing there. Came back to see a band there a couple of years later, and it was all completely silent on stage, and the whole vibe was just gone. Because I remember going in that club, and you'd stand by the stage. It was a big, tall stage,
Yeah.
and the band was up there, and the amps were rocking, and it was just a feeling thing, you know. And it felt like this is rock and roll, right? And then I went, and it was all completely quiet, and it was just bizarre. And we're still coming out the PA, you know.
Yeah.
But I missed that, you know, you could go up to the stage or close to the stage
Yeah.
and feel it. You
Yeah.
know?
Arc, vid,
Yeah. Anyway.
virtual.
Div. Go with div instead of vid.
Oh, I see. We could go with div because that's more pejorative.
Yeah.
That would work. Arc has connotations of celestial and
Yes.
Yes.
beautiful, and div has connotations of divvy, doesn't it? Which is what you would call your friend at school when they were being unintelligent. Yeah, if you're really worried about it, Thomas, look into a Y cable, as Simon suggested, or just a tiny mixer.
A little mixer is a good idea.
Um,
That's it. Yeah.
And then,
That's
I
what
mean,
Larry Carlton did for a while, didn't he? He had his own mixer and...
well, he used to run his his amp into a mixer,
That's right.
Then have his
That's
effects.
Right. Run
effects
into-
through
Yeah.
FRFR.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Back in the day when they weren't called FR, they were just called PA cabs.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
It's like when we all started calling overdrive pedals gain stages.
That's a bit of a weird one for me because a gain stage, you know, in terms of valves or tubes, it's just a unit of amplification.
Yeah.
It's part of an overdrive circuit.
Half
Yeah.
a 12AX7.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gies van der Esmorite. Gies, and again, I'm sorry for getting your name wrong, but Gies van der Esmorite says, volume pedal. Should I use a volume pedal or should I use a boost pedal in the last position on my effects board for boosting the signal? Thank you for the inspiration.
You could use both.
Dan might have a new product coming out.
I think there's pros and cons to both. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Because the thing with the boost is you can set it for a certain volume, just step on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The trouble I have with the volume pedal is it's always like, you know, you've got a lot of play from quiet to loud and just getting it for just the boost you
God,
want.
Dan, imagine
you
a
know?
product that solved all those problems. Just imagine it. Could you even imagine the problem that
Right.
solved all those a product?
Now I can.
You could,
now
you've got
I
it in
can.
your head.
And it's called?
To be announced.
Nice. Nice. Excellent.
I'm with Simon. I would say a boost pedal because you can set the level where you want it.
Yeah.
Maybe with a big knob that you can turn with your foot, you know?
Oh,
if
nice.
you need to. You know?
Yeah.
Scott Henderson used to do that. I used to see him doing that. He'd be all twisty on stage. You know?
That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
You knew Scott, right?
Well, when I was at
from the
GIT,
day?
I got to learn from him at GIT. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. I had several times great memories of jamming with him. They had this cool thing called the open counselling sessions at GIT. They'd have like an instructor, like Scott Henderson, in its little room, and he'd be there for like 4 hours. And you just walk about, and in between classes, you'd say, "Oh, there's Scott Henderson. He's playing with this guy. He's just jamming." And go and play a few tunes, and then he'd be off, and he'd go, "Who else wants to play?" And so it was pretty intimidating, but I ended up doing it 4 or 5 times and sitting in with him for like an hour, you know, and just playing, you know, Spain by Chick Corea or something, or pretending to play Giant Steps or something, or just jamming on a blues, you know. And after a while, you go, just enough of that, and you just say, "Who wants to play some blues licks?" And he just go off into his thing because he's just such a great blues rock player as well as a crazy jazz guy.
Wow.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was truly inspirational. Yeah, fantastic.
I've never met him. I
Amazing
would love
guitar
to meet
player.
him. I remember seeing his first Hot Licks video, just being blown away.
Yeah.
We're talking about Scott Henderson,
Scott
just in
Henderson.
case that didn't
Yeah.
come across.
Amazing guitar player.
Okay, we largely due to my banging on, we may have to pick up the pace a little bit
Okay.
just to get through the remaining super chats. First of which is from Dylan Croft. Hey Dylan, Howdy, thanks to TPS for introducing me to Kingsley amps.
No, thank you.
I'm the
guys.
proud owner of a Constable and a juggler, and I'm a huge fan of
Nice.
Mr. Jarrett's playing.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Thanks to all of you for the great work you do. Thank you, Dylan. That's kind of you to say.
Thank you very much, Dylan.
Hope you're enjoying those pedals. Neil Levine, hey Neil, he says, let's celebrate dropping my kids off, at summer camp today by picking a question up from the chat. Does summer camp happen in the UK? Because in America it's like a real thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but they can go away for like 6 weeks or something. You don't have 6 weeks of summer in the UK.
Weather-wise, you mean?
Yeah.
I would have thought that would be the most quintessentially English thing to do.
Drop the kids off.
You boy, go and
No,
stay in a
no.
tent for 6 weeks in the rain.
No. That's public school.
Oh, that's private schools. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so we'll take a question from the chat. Thomas Eichinger says, wouldn't I lose signal if I use a Y cable for his mics on his amp?
Well, I mean, the mics are usually low output impedance, right? So, I mean, I've done it without any issue. Yeah, I've only done it a couple of times, but I've done it, and I would say the better approach is definitely the mixer.
There we are. Good. Okay. Apologies for moving quickly, but we need to. Albus Band, Aaron, hey mate.
Had a go,
Great
mate.
to hear from you.
Yeah.
He says, well, I'm sure I'd feel much worse if I wasn't under such heavy sedation. Aaron always gives us a Spinal Tap quote
Okay.
every week. My dearest Dan and Mick, if your personality were a pedal, what would it be? I suppose it'd be a fuzz loud unless I'm reeled in. That's what Aaron would be.
That's a great question.
I think you'd be a Zoya, Aaron, having spent some time with you.
Oh, do you have one?
What would I be if I were a pedal? Oh, God. I'm trying to think of the type of pedal for a start.
You wouldn't be the kind of pedal, the kind of Kingsley pedal you're currently using.
Don't know. I'm quite different in my of who I am as a person as who I am as a musician. I'm very different. Like I am the most detail obsessed person as a person, and very, very. Okay.
That's a great question, you know.
Yeah, I'll be a fuzz face. Of course, I'd be a fuzz face.
I'd be a treble booster. Visually simple, internally surprisingly complex,
Actually,
and a little bit broken.
yeah, and a little bit broken. There you go. Perfect. That's perfect. I don't think I would be a fuzz face, you know. Oh God, it's so hard, Simon.
Well, I was going to say it could be a crybaby. But perhaps that's what Christine would say. I'd probably be a crybaby. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, not my first choice, but for the wife. Yeah.
Dan would be a delay, says Richard Smith. Everyone knows he'd be a tube screamer mix, says Chris Quinn. Yeah, I don't know. Insert loads of innuendos here with pedals from Zvex,
Indeed.
Electro Harmonics, and etc. Lovely question, Aaron. Sorry it was such a disappointing answer. Zachary Manzanetti. Hey, Zachary. Hi from Sacramento, California. Besides pushing 4 more Dan strings and a reissue of the Tritone T, Dan said Red was at first a dog. So how did you know it was worth keeping? How can you tell a good guitar is hidden behind stuff you don't like?
Okay, quick. I'll do this as quick as I can. When I bought this guitar, I bought it sight unseen.
Ings Hup says Dan is lack of memory man. That is spectacular,
Really
tip.
well
Thanks
played.
very much. Please come up with some pejorative ones for me.
So I bought this guitar in 2002, sight unseen. I had 1,200 quid. I needed a new Telecaster. That's as much as I could swing at the time. Friend of mine, Simon Law, contacted a bunch of his friends and found this guitar in the States. So I bought it. It arrived, and none of the nitro had gone off on the neck, and you can see where I've scratched it off with my thumbnail. You can still get in there now after 20 years. So because it hadn't gone off, it felt like tapioca pudding on the back of the neck. It was just awful. But plugged in, it sounded phenomenal. And now, where that's been worn off after, I mean, seriously, I've done a couple of thousand gigs on this guitar. And now it's turned into the most, I mean, so after playing the 65, here you go, you have a go on that one. It is the most extraordinary guitar.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
But I had no choice because that was all the money I had, and I had to make that guitar work. It did sound incredible.
I'm going to say it was not a dog.
It was not a dog.
There were some finish issues that you weren't happy with.
Yeah. But it like from the word go, it was, I was like, okay, I'll find a way to make this work, because plugged in, it was extraordinary. And I remember Leighton, the bass player I was in the band with at the time, turning up to the gig with that guitar. And I remember the first song, and he just come over and goes, man, that sounds ace. After the last telly that I'd been playing. It was like immediately apparent it was an amazing sounding guitar.
Almost the opposite experience with this guitar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you pick it up,
It's alive.
and to a man now, including Simon,
Yeah.
everyone who's picked it up has gone, that's a guitar.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
It's super vibey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic instrument. It rings and it sings. It's lovely to play, but this is a nightmare and needs to be changed. And of course, lots of people are like, oh, don't change it. Please don't change it. But it needs to be changed.
Yeah.
If you're going to play it,
Yeah, you gotta play it.
But the chassis of the thing is too damn good to be impeded.
yeah, incredible.
Now, if it was as it should be, i.e. like you kind of like the sound of it, but you didn't want to, it was horrible to play, or it had a really nice set of paths in it and everything else was right and you still didn't like it, that's when you know that the guitar's not for you.
Yeah.
And so then the question comes, how do you know, your actual question is, when do you know that you should persevere with it and make some changes? And for me, the answer is the thing feels right in your hands and you enjoy playing it. But I have had guitars like that over the years that I love playing, which I've never been able to get to sound right. So you've got to have a cut-off, haven't you, at some point?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't wait to hear this if you do that. If you do the work on the electronics, next time I see you guys, if it's done, I'm really looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah.
Such a nice guitar.
They look
So
great.
nice.
And the problem with it is that it's stereo currently, and I'm going to consult on it before I actually do the work. But what happens is, because it's stereo, the pickups are always connected, and that creates a really weird phasey sound that can be fantastic. The Veritone I'm absolutely going to keep, because it's such a cool thing, and I'm going to keep the out of phase. I'm going to keep the pickups out of phase.
Can you do the baritone thing and have it mono?
Yeah.
You can. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. Sorry, rabbiting on again. Rabbiting on. But of course, what you used to do in the old days, which is where the conversation started, was this is the only damn guitar I can afford, so it's got to work.
Got to work.
And for all the times we get accused of being trust fund babies and all of that, we're not, by the way.
So not.
Been there, done that. It's all a journey. There was no trust in our family, that's for sure.
Getting lots of suggestions for pedals for me.
Oh. Any that aren't... Noise Bloom says, I'm a slapback delay.
Now I've got Joe Rose says, Dan should be his CU1, grey and partly defect. Feeling the love, feeling the love.
Oh, Mick is an anti-MIDI delay with a built-in clon boost. Yeah.
Mick is 12 volt in a 9 volt world.
Surely I'm a 9 volt in a 12 volt.
No. You've got so much extra voltage.
Okay.
But it's wasted. That's the thing. Is the extra voltage.
Yeah. Simon is a Zen drive, apparently, for the spirit of Zen invoked on all our tones. Chris Quinn says, I wouldn't be a pedal, I'd be a bunch of deliberation without being able to make a decision. Man, that is a hard song to do.
Are you doing it?
I have done it, and there are so many words,
Yeah.
and there's no break. It's tiring.
Yeah.
My new favourite show, says Pukanarski. Yeah.
Perkinsky.
P. Kanasky, maybe. Kanasky. P. Kanasky. There you go. I'm just trying to get to something that's recognisable so that you don't think we've missed you. P. Kanasky. My favourite show. Thank you for so many hours of enjoyment and so much tonal help over the years. I cede my question to the chat.
Oh, lovely.
Well, then we're straight in with Tom.
Sorry, I got a good one here from Tours.
Okay.
What new guitars do you guys think will last 50 or 60 years, such as the well-made Fenders and Gibsons of old? The reason I like that question is because I think
These were never supposed to last that long.
That's right. These were supposed to be, a diesel brake, so just put a neck on that one.
Yeah.
Whereas the Gibsons were made as, furniture.
They were
basically.
serious instruments.
Serious instruments.
Yeah.
So I think any guitar, because wood is surprisingly resilient.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a very dear friend of mine is in the oil business, and he got some wood from the old piers from down where he had his boat. They pulled up the old jetty, and this would have been submerged for like 200 years, right? And he made his friends' tables out of this wood.
What do they call that? Petrified or something?
No, I don't know. It's just it's very, very scary. But this wood that had been in salt water for like a couple of centuries, and you can see in the side of the grains of the wood, the salt's maybe gone in 5 mil, and the rest of the wood looks like brand new. I think wood is surprisingly resilient.
Wood is good.
Wood is good.
Yeah. So basically, a guitar made out of wood.
A guitar made out of wood and will still be around in 50, 60 years.
Especially one that's done with sort of nuclear resistant poly finish as well.
Oh, they'll be around. Yeah, the cockroaches and them.
And Keith Richards.
I wonder if the question is about, though, like less about what the guitar's going to be made out of, rather than like maybe a type of guitar, a brand of guitar, or a guitar that's different or something. Because Fenders and Gibsons, and they're kind of like the classic guitars. Is there something else that's going to be
a classic guitar in 50 or 60 years?
The evidence isn't good, is it? I mean, if we think of the last 30 years, what are you doing, Rosie? The evidence isn't good because those guitars that came along that we thought might be that
There's a bark coming.
Yes.
There's a bark coming.
gone by the wayside.
What, like Steinberger and
Parker
Fly and
stuff that really felt like it was going to move the envelope, as it were. I think, unpopular opinion coming, tell me if you agree or not. I don't know much about violins, right? But Stradivari or Stradivarius, was that his name?
Well, that's what. I think so.
Stradivari means many Stradivariuses.
Yes, that's
And whatever the form was that ended up in that violin, violin players might tell me that it's evolved since then, but I'm not sure that it has really. The electric violin is a different instrument. The however much better it got after that perfect concert violin that you pay $2 million for, or however much they are, $5 million. It reached the peak of its evolution as an instrument.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And
Can
why?
first go.
And really, why does it have to like change anymore? Not to be like, so,
Yeah.
But I mean, does a trombone have to change? Is that gonna does that have to be different in 50 or 100 years?
And what's great about that is if we're talking about Strandberg or I don't know, because you might say the Ibanez Gem, right? But it's a bloody Strat with a flat fingerboard and a Floyd Rose on it, right?
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah.
It's makeup, isn't it?
Yeah, because I was going to say like Collings or something, but that's just that's just a Gibson type guitar.
It's a variation of the same thing.
Yeah,
for sure.
Much as
and
it's
that's
a fantastic one.
Sorry, God, I said I wasn't going to ramble on again. What am I saying? I'm saying something like a Strandberg is a different instrument. A MIDI guitar is a different instrument, and absolutely credibly so. But to put them in the same idiom as this and expect them to hold value in the same way, be as collectible in the same way, isn't going to happen because they didn't make rock and roll.
Yeah.
These guitars made rock and roll.
Yep.
That's why they will endure forever. And I'm using Strandberg as an example, insert whatever brand you're talking about here. If that instrument comes to represent a genre or something or a cultural movement or is tied down in history in a way that these things have been, maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
But they don't exist, and that goes for the violin, obviously. They don't exist outside of the zeitgeist of the day, do they?
Yes, that's right.
So that's what I think.
Very good.
Shall I talk some more?
No. Oh, is that the last super chat?
I could keep talking. No, we got loads more super chats. Yeah. It's good. We, maybe me more than Dan, often get accused of being like Luddite, and it's not. I love the idea of things progressing. It would be really great if kids didn't listen to Led Zeppelin anymore. If they actually listened to something new and novel and different and they were inspired by it. I'm totally for it, but I'm not interested in it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy. I'm 50 years old. I'm happy to become out of date. I'm really happy with that.
I must say, every now and then I'll take my son's headphones off and have a listen to what he's listening to. And man, there's some amazing music out there.
Of course there is.
It's really, really
Of course there
wonderful.
is. Yeah. And
Creativity is alive and well. We just got to keep the loud amps. Arc. Keep the arc, people, as opposed to the div.
As long as you keep it arc, not div, we're okay. Seth Rowe, hi Seth. He says, would adding a pedal like the Page TS?
TS, yeah,
There's
it's
a
like a
TS?
Page with a treble middle bass tone stack.
Okay. Would adding a pedal like the Page TS in front of a modelling amp make the amp feel more tube-like?
I mean, there's a tube in it, and it feels pretty good under the fingers. So, because I'm biased, I'm going to say yes.
Can I jump in here?
I'm going to say yes.
Quickly. When I was recording the songs for the EP, it was about, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I thought I'm just going to put a placeholder solo in the section of the song. I grabbed my page, went guitar into the page, out of the page, into the interface. And I just threw down something. I came back in the morning and just went, how did I do that?
Yeah.
I've tried recording it with the real amp since, and I can't play it.
Right.
So what I've done is I've reamped that solo into the matchless.
Nice.
But the page gave me that feel under the fingers.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like for me in the studio, the page is an essential piece of gear.
I said the Page or the Page TS would be good for that. In fact, my good friend Chris Rowland, shout out to Chris. He's probably not watching, but anyway, he has a Page TS and he has a Kemper, and he uses it into his Kemper, and
Right,
he
is
says
that-
he
yeah,
likes
yeah.
it for that.
Yeah.
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 It's actually a really good thing to try.
Yeah, I mean, whatever your guitar hits first is going to have a fundamental effect on how it feels, let alone how it sounds. So yeah, absolutely. I just want to answer Tom Arlid Hame here. Tom, sorry, you're right. I did start to answer your question earlier. He says, are there any episodes or a future one on PAFs? Enjoyed your hunt for pickups for the Strat. And I think there was a supplementary bit about the 335 or the Leicester. There isn't nothing planned, Tom. I have replaced the PAF style pickups in my 335. There was an episode on that if you want to watch that. If the gamut of humbuckers is this wide, I had a set here and I put some in that were here. And that's as much difference as I'm interested in. So read what you will from that. I love the pickups in my Les Paul. They're just Gibson custom buckers. Wouldn't want to change those. And I love the ones in my 345, which are patent number humbuckers from 1965. Wouldn't want to change those. So this is great. Look at this.
Sorry.
No,
Dan,
I'm
Dan
loving it.
made
I'm
me
just
do it.
loving it. It's so nice. All the comments are going, please just let them play.
We're a bit out of tune, aren't we?
I'm out. I'm tapping out. Oh man. Let's just do this. Let's just do this for the rest of the show.
Zachary Manzanetti. Hi, Zachary. He says, for Simon, I love my Surf and my Page. Would it be possible to get a Surf custom with normal output and low-end roll-off as one of the switch options?
Normal output? Well, by normal output, what do you mean by that? I mean, it already has like a position which is flattish, and you can put the volume where you want it. So I'm not quite sure exactly what that means. I have done some custom variations of the Surf with some different options than the one. The Surf's a little boost pedal. It's got a volume and then a three-way switch. So perhaps, possibly, yeah. Contact me and we can chat about it. Yeah, possibly.
This is why you do the small builder direct thing. You can have a conversation and get what you want.
Yeah,
Great, so good.
Yeah, just a little confused exactly what that means by the normal output. What was the other one?
Does it have, has it got like preamp type output?
No, it's
No.
a boost.
Oh, okay.
So it's got like a flattish, it's not really flat, flattish, and then a bright boost and then a mid boost. It's like the
right.
Jester boost,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but just in a little pedal.
Yeah, and then low-end roll-off is one of the switch options.
Yeah, it has a low end roll off already. The mid boost is in fact a low end roll off.
There
But
you go.
maybe if he has a Surf already, perhaps there's something slightly more specific he's trying to achieve. So we would have to chat about that. Yeah.
There you go. Send him an email, Zachary.
Yeah.
Talking of small builders, I went to see Dean Cutler yesterday. Remember the Blue Meanie guitar, people? Someone's bought it, if you're watching this, because I believe it's a TPS customer that's bought it. Really hope you enjoy that guitar. I did chuck a couple of sets of my strings in, so you can try those out as well. Yeah, and
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Dan.
Jeff Martin, can you use an underdrive for a master volume in a non-master volume amp, i.e. a Marshall Blues Breaker? Thanks for several years of guidance on my tone journey. Yes.
Yes, you can, depending on how you have the blues breaker set. If your blues breaker is set to be crunchy, the underdrive will bring the gain back. But because the amp is limiting, it won't necessarily be a massive volume. You're just reducing the amount of limiting. It's a fantastic way to do it. If you imagine, Hendrix cranked Marshalls and he starts doing this with the volume control. It's not that, and he cleaned up. It wasn't that he was so much quieter. It's that it was this less signal, so it was limiting less. Underdriver does that, but gives you a level at which you can control it easily, and you're not here trying to find the sweet spot.
Yeah.
It's a really great way to do it.
Yeah, because then you can also, sorry if you said this, you can also set amount of overdrive if you want.
Yeah.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A
Deserves
really
its
great
chord.
way to do it. That was definitely a moving on chord, wasn't it?
No, you did.
Um,
No, you did.
Sunder wants to know, Dan, I'm thinking of getting the Gen X power supply,
Yes.
and you say it can run the Electric Mistress version 2.
Mm-hmm.
What about polarity? It's tip positive.
So
And why do I need an Electroman adapter as it's 18 volts?
the Electroman adapter is 24 volts. So yeah, if it's an 18 volt pedal and it's tip positive, all you're doing, you can run the outputs, because the outputs are isolated. Both the positive and the negative are both isolated, because don't take that for granted. Some supplies they don't do that. You can just, because of the way our cabling works, you cut the cable to length and you put the black lead and the black tab and the lead with a white line under the white tab. Click them down, you're good to go. If you need to reverse polarity, you simply put the black cable in the white hole, blah, blah, blah. To do an 18 volt version, what you're going to do is you're going to use 2 of those outputs, and we're going to run the 2 9 volts in series. So all you do is you plug the white cable in one, and you plug the black cable in the next black one, and you put a little link between the two, pop them in, 18 volts.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Email the gig rig and they'll explain that in detail.
Yeah.
Also, for what it's worth, once you've done that, please put a bit of tape on the resultant thing saying that it's this many volts and this polarity.
Yeah.
So that you always know, so you don't accidentally plug it in to your 9 volt center negative pedal and cause a problem. Labeling, people. Tape. Love tape. Email the gig rig, they will explain that in more detail. Final question from Jim B. Jim B says, good day. I love the merch shop. Great. Thank you. That genuinely keeps us going, so please buy merch. Do you remember the first piece of music that set your mind on the guitar? Much love from Jim B. Thank you, Jim.
First piece of music.
Yep. War of the Worlds. Ooh la, and I've lost my mind.
Ooh, first piece of music that went on the guitar. Yeah, well, I mean, I was listening to things like, Slade and the Sweet.
Wicked.
Yeah, the guitar sounds
boy,
there.
Yeah, so or T-Rex or something, it was. But probably realistically, it was more. I didn't really get interested in the guitar until I was exposed to it through my elder brother and sister, and they were listening to things like Deep Purple, made in Japan and stuff like that.
Wicked.
Yeah, but I don't have a particular song. Sorry, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, I'll never forget walking up the stairs at my auntie's house, and I was very, very young. And they were sat around, because War of the Worlds was a massive hit in Australia. It was like, went to #1. I walked upstairs going, what is that noise? And then you hear this. And I'm like, that's the coolest thing in the world. Herbie Flowers. And then I got into that, Anyway, I was listening to it. I go, that's amazing. And then you hear this, ooh la, and Andy had never heard of War of the Worlds soundtrack, and we're driving to Leicester, so played him the soundtrack, and we're trying to work out how they did those guitars, and we've worked out, because the guitars are 2 in unison. They're all harmony guitars, and they all go ooh la at the same time.
Right.
So they must have recorded those guitars and then put them through a vocoder.
Right.
Mixed them through a vocoder to get that sound. But yeah, and I heard that and I was like, I was done. How could someone play a guitar like that and make a sound and make me feel scared? And I was a kid, and I was like, I was
Did
hooked
you
at
know
that
it
moment.
was a guitar?
I knew it was because I'd playing guitar. I had a guitar when I was 4, right? And I knew it wasn't something I'd ever heard before, but the sound excited me so much. I didn't necessarily know what it was, but yeah, that was a big moment.
Sat in my friend Matthew Smith's loft. He had him and his brothers had an area in the loft where they could sort of hang out like a kid's den. And I would have been 8 or 9 years old, I think. History changes memories, right? So this is
that's interesting.
This is how I remember it. I might have been a little bit older. I might have been 10 or 12, to be fair. I started playing guitar like totally into it at about 8. And parents got me a KSG copy and a K amp that was plastic with an oval speaker.
That's so funny. Because I had an SG copy with a Coronet amp, the transistor things.
It was just plastic. It was made of plastic, and it didn't have a back on it. Maybe it should have done. I don't know. Anyway, so Matthew Smith's loft, and there was 2 albums. There was Paranoid by Black Sabbath, or at least the song Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and Highway to Hell by AC/DC.
Oh man, you had cool friends.
And that was it. That was it. Probably some Quo thrown in there as well.
Yeah, status quo. Yeah, for me too.
But it was that, because his brother, he was in a band with his brothers, you see, later on. And hearing a Marshall half stack with a Fender Strat at an impressionable age
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
was like, this is the shit.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I remember when
Arc, people.
being my brother's,
Arc.
Darren always managed to have money. He worked really hard. He could save, man. I could never save money. He could save money, and he'd buy guitars and sell them on, and buy amps and sell them on. And I walked into his room today. He says, "Dan, come and have a listen to this." And he had an SG and a JCM 800 combo. It might not have been the 800 combo, but it looked like an 800 combo from what I can remember. And he was like, "Listen to this." And I was like, "Oh my word, that's the best thing I've ever heard."
The world has changed.
Well, that's it. It's just the coolest thing. Some of those 2x12 Marshall combos were amazing.
Yeah.
The JCM 800.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2x12 combo. That was something.
Yeah, 50-watt one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally,
I know Ainsley was a big fan of those as well. And the ones that just immediately preceded that. Anyway, right. We should thank Simon for sitting next to us and listening to our whittering.
Well, thanks very much for having me on board, guys. And a lot of fun.
It is great to see you, man.
Yeah.
Likewise, both of you. Yeah, it's always a pleasure. You're very, very kind, and it's always very inspiring to be here and just sit here and kind of go, "Oh my goodness!" and, but to hear you guys play too and chat, it's awesome.
Happy days. Could be worse, right? Could be worse.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us, everybody. This coming Friday is Chris Buck on that pedal show.
Wow, he's a great player.
And we catch up with Chris.
Silly good.
Talk a lot about Cardinal Black and that whole journey. Get and listen to his new Thorpe pedal and some other stuff.
The Electric Lightning.
Yes, and all those good
what it's
things
called.
that you would expect from Chris.
Nice.
Cool.
Thanks again, Simon.
Yeah, buddy.
Great
Thank
to-
you,
great to
guys.
join
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so
And
much.
now I can say, Simon and Dan, play us out. We'll see you then. Bye.
It's a good thing we tuned our guitars beforehand, eh?
That's painful to listen to.
Do you want us to
Hang
play
on.
some guitars, Dan? Do you want a different guitar?
Yeah. Give me the 345.
Anything to be louder.
Okay.
The downside of the Hovye Deluxe panels is you walk into them much like a tow bar on a truck.
You know that one? Affirmation, right?
Right.
I thought that's what maybe you were going to play. I just took a wild guess, but it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
it's
we
okay.
could do. Hang on, but this one. What is it? No.
Oh, you mean
Is it A? That's it. Ah.